How do we afflict our souls? On the Day of Atonement, on Yom Kippur, we are commanded to afflict your souls. Leviticus 16:29 says, "In the 7th month, in 10th month, you shall humble your souls, and any work you shall not do, the native and the sojourner." So we are commanded on the 10th day of the 7th month to humble our souls. We are not to do any work. In Leviticus 23:29, that any soul which is not being humbled in this same day, and it shall be cut from its peoples. But what is this soul, and what is this humbling of it? Let's look at some examples of how these words are used so that we can get a better idea of their meaning. The word normally translated as soul is nephesh. This word is used in a variety of ways. It's used both for living people and dead people, and it's also used to refer to animals. And there are additional implications beyond this. Exodus 15:9 says, "Enemy said, I shall pursue, I shall cause to reach, I shall apportion loot, my soul shall fill of them." In reference to Pharaoh and his army pursuing after the Israelites, he desired to have his soul filled of them. Exodus 23:9 says, "And you shall not oppress sojourner, and you knew, soul of the sojourner, that sojourners you were." So the Israelites knew the soul of the sojourner because they could relate with that experience. Leviticus 26:43, "And the land shall be left from them, because they rejected in my judgments, and their soul detested my enactments." In reference to the Israelites being cast out of the land of Canaan, it says that their soul detested my enactments. Numbers 21:4-5, "Soul of the people reaped in way. Is no bread and is no waters, and our soul prickles in the cursed bread." So it says the soul of the Israelites was reaped while they were in the wilderness. And they complained about having no bread and having no water, and their soul was averted to the manna. So at times we do have this implication of inner being, but there are also other implications to it. Deuteronomy 12:15, "But in all yearning of your soul you shall slaughter, and you shall eat flesh." So if one desires to eat meat, they can slaughter it and eat it within their gates, and this is described as yearning of your soul. Deuteronomy 23:24, "That you shall come in vineyard of your attendant, and you shall eat grapes as your soul, your satisfaction." While we are not allowed to just gather the grapes of our attendant into containers, it says we are allowed to eat them as your soul, your satisfaction. So there is this connection between the soul and the satisfaction in this case. Deuteronomy 21:14, "And it shall be, if you are pleased not in her, and you shall send her to her soul." This is in reference to a woman that was taken from the captives of a conquered people. And it says that if the man is not pleased with her, that he will send her away to her soul. And presumably this means as she sees fit, that she can do as she pleases. We see that soul, or nephesh, refers to one's inner being at times. And we also see it refers to one's desires as well. We saw that it referred to the meat being slaughtered and being eaten according to yearning of your soul. And we also saw this going into your neighbor's vineyard, eating to your satisfaction. And we saw it in reference to the woman from the captives, that she is being freed to go according to her soul. So soul does not just refer to a person or a being, or even just the inner being for that matter. There is also this implication of personal desires. So what does it mean to humble these desires, or to humble one's soul? The word for humble is inah, and it comes from the word ana, which literally means to eye, as in use of the eye, or to answer. Essentially, these two words are the same word. They are spelled the same in terms of the consonants, the word for humbling and the word for eyeing or answering. And how is this word used? Exodus 1:11 says, "And they placed on him chiefs of vassalage, to purpose of humbling him in their tasks." The hard labor being placed upon the Israelites is referred to as humbling him. Exodus 10:3 says, "Thus said Yahuwah, Elohim of the Hebrews, unto when you refuse to be humbled from before me, send my people." A series of plagues had been brought upon Pharaoh, as we know, and it was posed to him, when will Pharaoh be humbled and send the people of Elohim? Deuteronomy 8:2, "This 40 year in wilderness, to purpose of humbling you, to test you, to know which is in your heart." So the Israelites were in the wilderness for 40 years, and it says it was for the purpose of humbling them. And in the next verse, "And he humbled you, and he caused you to hunger, and he caused you to eat the manna," the mon, "to purpose of causing you to know that not on the bread to its apart the human shall live, that on all going forth of mouth of Yahuwah the human shall live." So the Israelites were humbled, and it says, "He caused you to hunger." But they were also fed the manna, the mon. Deuteronomy 21:14, which refers to the woman that was taken from among the captives, as we looked at earlier. "You shall send her to her soul, and selling you shall not sell her in silver, under which you humbled her." So the taking of this woman is being described as humbling her. And we see similar connotations elsewhere in the Torah as well, the taking of a woman against her will. This verse is not from the Torah, but I want to refer to it because it has an explicit connection with fasting in this case. Psalm 35:13, "And I, in their ailing, my garment was sack, and I humbled my soul in fasting." So we see this humbling of the soul, similar to how we see it with the Day of Atonement Yom Kippur commands. And this is explicitly connected with fasting in this verse. And Genesis 16:9, "And worker of Yahuwah said to her, Return to your mistress, and humble yourself under her hands." Sarah's servant had fled because of how Sarah was treating her, but she was commanded to return and humble herself before her. We can see that when one is being humbled, that they are oftentimes doing things not according to their will. They are often doing things against their will. We saw this with Sarah's servant. She was told to humble herself and return to her mistress, even though she had just fled. She obviously didn't want to be a part of that anymore. And we saw that Pharaoh, of course, did not want to release the Israelites, release his people. Yet he was asked, "Until when will you be humbled? How long is it going to take you to be humbled and let them go?" And we see this with the woman that was taken from the captives. She probably did not want her people to be conquered, and so she is being taken probably against her will by one of the men from the conquering army. So in that case, she is being humbled. There is this implication of submitting at times, this implication of not doing according to our normal desires. And we saw this explicitly connected with fasting later on in the Tanakh. That is not the only use of it, as we saw. But I think fasting does make sense as a connection with this, because we do see in Deuteronomy 8:3 that he humbled you and he caused you to hunger. So fasting could be a way of manifesting this, of humbling one's soul. We are commanded on Yom Kippur to humble our souls from the 9th day at evening to the 10th day at evening. And we saw that soul can refer not only to a person, but it can also refer to someone's desires, someone's personal inclinations. And we saw that humbling can refer to being submitted to something that's not in line with our will, doing something against our will. And so if we are humbling our souls, we could be going against that personal inclination, those personal desires. And of course, fasting is the traditional way this has been done. And it's definitely arguable that there is that connection, because we saw in Deuteronomy 8 reference to causing you to hunger. And we also see elsewhere in the Tanakh, as alluded to, there is that explicit connection with humbling one's soul to fasting. However, one interesting thing about the Yom Kippur commands is that it never says, you shall not eat, and it never says, you shall not drink. But obviously, this humbling of the soul is an essential and serious part of the command, because it says, any soul which is not being humbled in this same day, and it shall be cut from its peoples. So clearly it is to be taken seriously. And it would make sense to humble one's soul using fasting. I do think that makes sense as an application of that, but I don't think that has to be the only way. For me personally, just not eating for one day is not really that big of a deal in my opinion. Now, obviously for some people view it otherwise, but I don't really see it as being especially humbling. And so for me, I personally don't deliberately seek entertainment. I don't go out and seek pleasure, because I would consider that a part of my soul, my vitality, or a part of my personal desires. I seek to do otherwise on that day, because I think that would be more humbling in that case. So humbling of the soul, it's not 100% explicit as to how that is being done. There definitely are connections with fasting, but I think it could go beyond that. I think that seeking to submit ourselves and submitting our personal desires on that day would be in accordance with that command. Thanks for watching. Feel free to check out some of my other videos about other Torah issues, and be sure that you stay in touch so we can continue this discussion. Thanks for watching. Remember the commands. Shalom.